Hi and welcome to part 3 of my little lockdown project to convert my old Prusa Mendel iteration 2 printer into something a little bit more modern using a P3STEEL frame. On the last video I'd got some of the electronics working, I'd got the wire carriage to move back and forth under command of the LCD display, and I left it at that. I've been able to work a few evenings on it in the week. I've done some stuff on it. I've got the bump stops to work on the wire carriage. I've put the heated bed on and tested it to 100 centigrade. I've built the extruder, which is that's the most challenging part of the machine, I've got to say. And I did a trial build on the X and Z axis, so having got wire working I turned to X and Z. I found a problem with the bolt heads that hold the frame. The back of the X carriage was hitting the bolts, so I found a fix is to take the bolts off and grind about 1 millimetre off them. I've done one so far, I've got to do the other 3 this morning. I also looked at the lead screws, these brass nuts. They've got a hell of a lot of wobble on them, which I didn't like. So about 5-6 weeks ago when I first looked at this, I bought what are these called anti-backlash nuts, and they've got 2 nuts effectively and a spring to push them apart to take the slack out. That's all well and good unless you've got more weight than there is spring capacity. I've done some calculations and unfortunately with this heavyweight extruder that's not going to work at all. So I had to turn up yesterday from my good friends at Amazon these plastic nuts. That's the ones, or the style that they use on the Prusa machines, and they're made of a material called POM, P-O-M, polyoxymethylene, which I've never heard of, but I've heard of it under other names like acetal and Delrin. So that's what I'm going to use. There's no wobble on that, these are perfect, so that's what's going to go. The brass ones will get melted down. And the final thing on the Z axis, I put some motor covers on because I didn't like the ugly wiring. I'm not sold on the blue, so as an experiment I've printed out some blue end caps for the top. That might balance the ones at the bottom and look a bit better. So I'll pop them on later on when I've built this carriage thing and see how they look. If I'm not happy with it, I'll take them off or I'll reprint in black or whatever. And the final thing, and this is probably my biggest concern, is that the Prusa has the cable coming out the top to feed the extruder, so the big bunch of wires to feed that. Mine is coming out at the back at a jaunty angle, and that may, if I'm printing something very large, it may actually foul on the thing I'm printing and knock it off the bed. So what I'm doing is I'm printing, it's a big 17-hour print, I'm printing a massive orange cube which is 25 centimetres wide, 21 deep and 21 centimetres high, and I'm going to use that and rig up the lead and just see if it's going to knock it. If that is the case, or there's any doubt about it at all, that electronic box has got to be scrapped and I've got to design a new one with a wire coming out the top. If that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. So busy day ahead of me, so I think I'm going to need to start the day with a little coffee. That's fine. Okay, I think I've got quite a few things working now. I've got the extruder mechanism on. That seems to go up and down. The screws are in, the caps are on. They actually look quite nice, so I'm going to leave them. Everything seems to be working on that front quite nicely. I haven't wired up any of the bunch of cables from the extruder yet, while there's a question mark over the electronic box. However, I have wired up the Pinder probe, the inductive sensor which detects how close the extruder is to the bed. I've done a 9-point calibration on it. That seems to work quite nicely. Obviously this isn't fully bolted on yet, but it just gives me an idea that the thing works. So I'm really pleased with that. That's good progress for today. What I'm not so pleased with is the fact that the cable that's going to come out to feed the extruder, the cable that links the electronic box to the extruder, is actually going to hit large objects up near the top. So if I'm printing something very, very big on this machine, but still within the capacity of the machine, the cable bunch is going to hit the object and possibly knock it off the heated bed. That's no good. So I've got to redesign the electronic box. So instead of coming out at a weird angle, the cable's got to come out from the top. Also, I'll be raising the top up about 20 millimeters because that would seem to be the right sort of place for it to be. So that's it for today. I've got to get on the CAD system and design that new electronic box. I'll stop the print for the big orange cube because I know I don't need it now. I know that thing's broken, so I don't need a cube to tell me that. So that's it. Do a bit of redesign on the box, print it out overnight. It'll take about 10-12 hours including the lid, and then tomorrow morning take the box off, the old box off, take all the electronics out, and then pile it into the new box, and maybe then start wiring up the extruder, and possibly might even melt some plastic tomorrow. So fingers crossed. Catch you later. Hello again. Well, my Prusa printer next door has been working hard overnight to produce this new electronic box. The problem with the old one was the cable for the extruder was coming out of the side, and there was the danger of it hitting large objects as they moved back on the heated bed. So instead of coming out of here, it's now going to come out of the top, and this top's been raised about 20 millimeters as well to get things up even higher still. So got to get the circuit board out of the old box, got to get the old box off, get it all into this one and bolt it on. Bob's your uncle. Job done. The heated bed, I've taken 8 of the spacers out from the outside and put nylon locking nuts so that I can adjust the height of each point on the bed and get it as flat as possible, so that when I can and scan it over with the inductive probe to check the height, it should be fairly level. Talking of which, the inductive probe that I bought, the clone one, is failing intermittently, so I've put a genuine Prusa one on. That looks pretty good. So the moral of the story, buy cheap, pay twice. So I've got a busy day. I've got all this extruder thing that I've wired up. I've got to sort out these cable lengths. Many of them are too long, but some of them are actually too short, so I'm going to have to extend them. Unfortunately, all this has got to come apart again because I've put a new probe on it. So I've got to take the old one out of the wiring loom, put a new one in, and off we go. So it's going to be a bit of wiring day. I'm going to grab a cup of tea and then crack on with it. Catch you later. Well, as you can see, I've got a working printer of sorts. It's just pushing out a test square at the moment. I redid all the box today, put the new electronic box on, wired all the extruder in, set up loads of firmware. It was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. Did all the bed leveling again. Everything's spot on now. This is literally the first print and it's working. I wasn't expecting that, but it's going. So I've got some tidy up to do. I've noticed that the extruder head hits the badge at very high settings, so I've got to make a slimmer badge. I've got to tie wrap up some of the wiring because I took it out to fix a fault. Get the lid onto that. Oh, and the other thing is get the longer cables for the LCD display so it can go on here. But basically that's it. I was hoping to get it printed something this weekend and I've achieved it. What a result. So that's the end of the little project and the end of the updates. Thanks for watching.